Welcome to the final chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen. Guys, I want to express my gratitude and how much love I have for you guys that all supported me till now. Like, it means a lot, but that's gonna be its own video, so wait for that. With that said, I just want to say I do think this chapter is amazing. Like, for an ending to a series, it touches on the themes of the entire story. It really wraps everything up and puts a nice bow on top of it. I cannot be any more satisfied. But with that said, let's just get into the chapter. But before we get into discussion about the final chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen and the series as a whole, we should acknowledge that with the story finally complete, we'll be looking for some more JJK content to hold us over. And I think I have the perfect suggestion for you guys. Jujutsu Kaisen Phantom Parade, the first officially licensed game for Jujutsu Kaisen. No longer any need to say goodbye to our beloved Yuji Itadori and our favorite technique in the series, the Black Flash, or Megami and his 10 Shadows. From Nue to Max Elephant to Divine Dog Totality, we get to see Megami display an insane offense in Phantom Parade. I know a lot of us wanted more Megami in the series as well, so hey, and here we get it. Even though Jujutsu Kaisen is coming to an end, and Phantom Parade will also get to re-experience all of our favorite moments in the series, meanwhile, getting to experience new ones with all sorts of unique scenarios. Pre-registrations have now surpassed 3 million, so let's unlock more rewards together. I also noticed that the Phantom Parade team event is currently underway. The more friends you invite to play, the more rewards you'll receive. Pretty easy to do, so just send your friends your personal invitation code, and when they register, you can obtain up to 1100 additional cubes. With that said, what are you waiting for? Go hit the link in the description down below and sign up for Jujutsu Kaisen Phantom Parade, and I'll see you guys in game. So the chapter begins with us just continuing from where we were last chapter. The trio is still trying to figure out where this guy is at. Nobara says that she wasn't able to find any seals or markings anywhere on the girl, and that's why she took her off to do the physical last chapter. But she says that the curse user still needs to be nearby because if he's working remotely, right, like every technique in the series that works remotely, you have to be in range. So Yuji's like, do you think we're in range? And Megami's like, maybe. Their technique could be more suited for covert work, or they could just be extremely skilled with their cursed energy. Either way, this is becoming a pain. Nobara then asks the girl, like, has his face ever gone back to normal? The guy's face from the previous chapter. And she's like, I don't think so, but maybe when I was asleep. And Megami's like, assuming it's a no, then we're going to be dealing with a huge range of at least 50 meters. But let's just say 100, wink, to be safe. Yuji's like, alright, so what's the move, because we're in the middle of town right now. And Megami's like, there's people everywhere, and even if we check the buildings, there are way too many blind spots. Although we should be able to notice when the technique is activated again if we're able to get a good vantage spot. And Yuji's like, okay then, I know what to do. Let's just go to an open field. And Megami's like, that'd work great if the person we were dealing with was an idiot. And Yuji's like, okay, so does that make me an idiot for coming up with the plan? And Nobara's just clowning on him. I miss the trio, but the same shenanigans they've always been on. And Nobara's like, okay, bet, so let's give the girl to Yuji and he can run 100 meters so he can get out of the technique's range on foot. But Megami's like, even if the technique is disabled by moving out of range, they'd have to be a real idiot to show themselves right after, and we already established that they're not gonna chase after us. They just wait until things cooled off and start over, so we can't do anything to stand out. And since Nobara came up with a dumb plan now, Yuji's like, who's the idiot now? And Nobara says, okay, so how about we just send them on an all expenses paid trip, like the couple? And Megami says that might work, but the curse user likely knows their location through their technique, and we only have our eyes, so let's not stalk the stalker. Yuji goes on to say that if we send them on a trip, that might force the curse user to wait and reactivate their technique when the two get back from the trip. Megami's like, that's not entirely implausible, but that would be putting the ball in his court. Yuji's like, damn, do you do anything but nitpick every plan? And then Nobara's like, you're just assuming that this curse user is super smart. There are plenty people out there dumber than us. And I'm not gonna lie, like, they actually made a great point with that. Megami out here thinking that this guy could be Sukuna, and it's probably because he did sit in Sukuna's body for a month watching him use Jujutsu and fight the way he does. So he's just overestimating everybody at this point. Anyways, Yuji and Nobara are like, try us at this board game because we're gonna wash you and we'll show you that we're actually pretty smart. and Megumi just calls them out instantly, saying it looks like you guys are compensating for something. He's basically saying, like, you know, he's got them feeling dumb and that's how they're trying to make up for it. So Megumi says we're gonna have them leave the technique's range and we'll strike the moment that it's reactivated. And Yuji's like, that's exactly what I've been saying, but Megumi's like, not really, because my plan involves this, a 40-floor condo. It should be easily over 150 meters. Then Ichiji in a window can keep an eye on the buzzer and the entrance. And then we'll find a good lookout and wait for the reactivation. We're dealing with a creep assessed enough to stalk Fukuzawa 24 hours a day. We didn't find any hidden microphones, so as long as they don't have a technique that lets them overhear our conversations, we should be able to bait them. And this is exactly like that one Mob Psycho episode you guys know. So Fukuzawa goes up the 40 floor condo or whatever, and she notices that her boyfriend, his face is finally back to normal. And once she says this, the curse user pulls up trying to reuse the technique on her. And remember, before a technique is used, there will always be a quick spark of curse energy, so they were able to sense it. And as they drop from the sky, or at least Nobara, the guy's like, who the hell are you? And Nobara basically says, like, it's time to go. Nobara sticks the back of her hammer into the building and slides all the way down alongside Yuji running up to the building and catching up. They land right in front of the perpetrator. They both say piece of cake as they found him, but then they look at one another and see that his curse technique has activated on them. He takes this opportunity to get away as they're perplexed with one another, but totality is right in front of him. Megumi manages to get the job done as the two apologize to Megumi for taking things lightly, as he says. The scene changes and we see that Megumi has brought the perpetrator to the girl. Fukuzawa then says that she has never seen him before, and this instantly triggers him, making him say things that cannot be said on YouTube, and he asks her, who do you think bought you that bag? And all their faces are hilarious because they know that they just got themselves into a sticky situation. And the girl instantly remembers who he was, and she says, oh. So the scene cuts and we're kind of just relaxing at this point. The trio's getting beverages after their mission, and Nobara says, who would have thought that this was a classic, a pot calling the kettle black situation. It just seems like a petty grudge because it's not reasonable to expect her to remember every customer from her hostess work. And Nobara's like, he spent 1,000,000 yen, who would forget that? And this is probably insinuating that she gets a lot of guys spending 1,000,000 yen on her. And Yuji's like, it sounds like a pretty sweet gig, and Nobara just says he's clueless. I like that the boys just don't care and have no idea, because, like, honestly, who would? But Yuji looks over to the man in the car and walks over to him, telling him to not be in such a bad mood because it's not like he's going to be executed for this or anything like that. But the guy asks, what are you going to do with me? I'm well past the age where I should know how to communicate with people, but I try to put all the blame on her. And we then get into an amazing flashback. It begins with Yuji saying, I thought that after Kusakabe, I'd try switch training with you, Gojo. And Gojo says that it would be fine, but how do I put this? Haven't we had enough Gojo Satoru? And Yuji's like, what? And Gojo's saying like, yo, I need you to be a little bit more forward thinking, Yuji. Sure, I want you to carry on my dream should anything happen to me, but if this is where I bow out, there will be a point where you guys grow further than I did, right? I think there should be at least one of you who completely forgets about me and develops strength different from that of my own. Yuji's like, I can never forget you. I mean, none of us could. You seem out of character and you're sounding a little bit timid. Are you okay? And Gojo says, you're such a kid. This is confidence. Confidence I've never had before. I'm expecting great things from you. You've got that, Yuji? We come back to present time, and Yuji tells the perpetrator that you've acknowledged that you messed up and that's all that matters. Take some time to reflect, then come help us on our next mission, because I'm expecting great things from you. And the scene ends. Megumi goes on to ask Yuji, so what'd you do with that thing? And Yuji says that I've tossed it. Megumi's like, what? And Yuji says, don't sweat it, man. It's not dangerous anymore. It should make for a perfect talisman at this point. Megumi's like, come on. But Yuji says it's all good. And he looks up one last time to the future. We cut into the final scene of the series. And guess who's here? Mahito. He goes on to say, how's it going, Sukuna? Who thought I'd ever see you here? And Sukuna's like, well, what's this? Our third conversation? Mahito explains how he's present, saying that my technique messes with the soul after all, so consider this a vestige. Welcome to the pathway souls walk on their way down the cycle. And I meant to ask you, you were lying to yourself, weren't you? To yourself and everyone else. You weren't living according to your own stature. You wanted revenge. Revenge against those who resented and persecuted that cursed, unwanted little wretch. And Sukuna goes to say, what's the difference? I lived in the only manner that I knew, and that is how I chose to go on. Actually, no. I had different paths that I could have traversed. 2, to be precise. And yet, I couldn't help but spit out the curses stirring deep within my viscera. I feared my own curse would immolate me. Should there be a next time, perhaps it would be nice to walk down a different path. And Mahito says, that is so boring. You've gone soft. And Sukuna says, obviously, because I lost after all. And Mahito's like, what the hell? So I'm the only one left sulking like a child? Damn. And with that, the scene changes, and we finally see our heroes one last time, just enjoying their lives and at peace, before Sukuna's door opens, the one from chapter 1 and where his finger was. And we see that his finger is sitting within the talisman and open this time around instead of closed. With that, Jujutsu Kaisen has finally come to an end. So my thoughts on the ending specifically, like with Sukuna and Mahito, there's so much to it. Like, a lot of the things in this chapter really do close out the series as a whole, and it just hammers in what it was always about. There's Sukuna and Mahito's conversation, right? He speaks about how he only had one path to go on, and that's how he chose to go on, but he understands that he lost to Yuji. So he makes the realization that, like, hold up, no. There were more paths that I actually could have went down. 2, to be precise. And then he goes on to say, like, should there be a next time, it'd be nice to walk down a different path. And I've gone soft because I lost. And this means that, like, Yuji made a very strong point with Sukuna. And I think that not only Yuji defeating Sukuna in their battle of ideals, because that's exactly what their final battle was. I mean, Sukuna literally announces to Yuji that he's going to take his ideals and crush them. But since he lost to Yuji, he lost the battle of ideals. So his mindset was changed. Like, he grew from his defeat by Yuji. And Yuji also just saying, like, the world never gave you a chance. He and Mahito, Yuji and Mahito, are the only 2 characters to actually understand this about Sukuna. I do think that plays a role into why he takes the path of Uraume rather than what appears to be his mother, and I'll explain why I do think that's his mother in a bit. But Uraume being chosen rather than Sukuna going down the path of his mother makes a lot of sense, because he doesn't want anything like himself to be created again. He doesn't want a child abandoned by the world without a chance to ever be anything more than what the world designates them to be to happen again. And this parallels Gojo, because Gojo says, like, yo, forget about Gojo. You hold a different kind of strength that I look up to, and you are the future, Yuji. I'm expecting great things from you, and I've never been more confident behind anything I've ever said in my life. Like, this was a great chapter, but there's not much I can say because I want to give it its own video. I want to, like, really make an analysis video where I explain to you guys what's going on in this chapter, how this from 100 chapters ago links up with it. Like, I'm gonna give this a great big video like I did with chapter 265, so don't worry. If you want to know what I think of the chapter overall, I find it to be a very satisfactory ending. It's not perfect, you know, that's just a bit of exaggeration, but I love the chapter nonetheless. I think it settled the story great. I think it hammered down a lot of its themes. Gege set out what he did to do from the very beginning, and that's all that matters in the story to me. He kept it extremely consistent and did his job. I also like Mahito on top at the end. I think Mahito being there is just a great touch. You know, he reinforces the nature of curses and kind of serves as a reminder as to why Yuji had to leave him behind. But let me stop talking. With that said, guys, thank you so much for the journey behind the reviews, the spoilers, just the weekly videos. But I'm happy they're done. You know, I can really dedicate time to other projects and making analysis, power scaling, all that type of stuff I've been doing on the side on the channel a lot more better. But again, thank you for sticking by. With that said, that ends the reviews. On to a new saga we go. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.